Having trouble connecting. Oh, there we go. Looks like we're connecting. Hi, everybody. Coach Jennie here with another episode of Coach Jennie Live, my experimental live stream that I'm doing on most Tuesdays. And today what I want to talk to you is, and every time I come on here, what I want to talk to you about is what is on my mind. And what is on my mind right now is why we suck so much at giving ourselves credit. I had this really great conversation recently with folks that were at my No Matter What event about this idea of giving ourselves credit and why it's not just uncomfortable, but almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Unnatural, maybe unnatural to give ourselves credit. Like we have to really rail against and fight against this idea that we can give ourselves a pat on the back or recognize our accomplishments. And I just wanted to unpack that a little bit about why that to me is incredibly frustrating. And I've realized, over the years, I've been in business 16 years. I'm very proud of that. And over the years, I have been trying really hard to figure out what I'm on a mission to do. And I feel like I've been on a few different missions. Maybe as other business owners watching this, you'll totally relate to that. And I feel like my mission has kind of shifted. My original mission with my business was to try to turn it into an actual business, if I'm being completely transparent and honest. Because, when you first start running a coaching practice, everybody says, oh my God, you'll be rich in a year. Just do this, that, and the other thing and follow this 30-step plan. And that did not go my way. Mostly because I rebelled against the whole smarmy marketing thing. But I digress. And then I thought I was on a mission to really make sure that I was inspiring everybody with audacity, which took a lot of time explaining what the heck that was. And then I was on a mission to make Hilda a household name. Hilda being the voice in the back of your head. I talk a lot about her pretty often. And I've spent the last about 5.5 years, 6 years, a little longer, 6 years, really working on making Hilda a household name and talking a lot about her. But I've come to realize that that's not actually the mission that really drives me forward. Like what really drives me forward is trying to convince amazing people that they need to practice giving themselves credit. And why that is not just a cute little gratitude journaling exercise. And I want to be clear. I know a lot of you probably love your gratitude journals, and I'm not here to take them away from you. It's okay. But I think that they're at least incomplete. They're at least insufficient for really helping you move the needle forward. And that's because gratitude, while it feels yummy, is about being grateful for things that are external to you, right? Things that you have access to, being grateful for the humans in your life, which is lovely. And obviously you did a lot to make that a thing, but, grateful to the blessings that you have in your life, grateful to the sun and to the weather and to your health and all of these really positive things. Again, nothing wrong there. But it's external for the most part, with the exception of maybe health. Your gratitude typically is things you have access to, things external to you. And those are the things that we tend to be grateful for. I want to also make sure that we're giving ourselves credit, which is really coming from what we've done, what we've accomplished, what we've experienced, what we've survived, what we've pushed through, what we've tried. With varying levels of success. And learning to give yourself credit is so hard for many of the people that I work with. Many of the folks that come to my events say, I don't feel comfortable giving myself credit because I was taught to be humble. Right? How many of you have been taught that the most important thing you need to do is be humble? There's nothing wrong with that, right? It comes from a really good place. It's a very positive message on the surface. But if you get too humble, then you become somebody who can't even see how far you've come. You can't see what you bring to the table. And sometimes that can just get very, very twisted. Or maybe your discomfort with giving yourself credit comes from a place of giving yourself credit means that you're bragging. I know I was taught you are not allowed to brag. Bragging was the worst thing you could do, second only to being selfish. And it was kind of related to that. If you were bragging and celebrating something that you were proud of, that was being prideful and not humble. And that was looked down upon quite a bit. And so we have built up a habit of avoiding bragging at all costs, because we don't want to be one of those people. I know there was that kind of internet trend of the hashtag humble brag. Remember that? The humble brag, which is, I guess, not a oxymoron. I'm not really sure. But I love the spirit of that thing, that it was at least forcing people to say, look, here's something that I'm a little embarrassed to tell you, but I'm kind of proud of this, so I'm going to tell the world about it. The idea of that is really exciting to me. Drop the humble and just give yourself credit. And then the other place that this kind of shows up is that discomfort, which is a soft word for this, but that discomfort with accepting compliments. And boy, does this one hit me hard. I hate that I can't just easily, effortlessly accept a compliment. It always makes me squirm a little bit. I actually created this silly little rule in my business called rule number 1, don't make the coach cry, because it makes me really uncomfortable when people are saying something really lovely about me and about my work and the impact of my work, even though I'm on a mission to make sure that the impact of my work is really felt. Yeah, it's kind of wild. Hey, Chris. Chris is joining us in the chat, and she says, awesome journey for you while helping entrepreneurs. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So yeah, this idea of getting compliments and being comfortable just saying thank you when you get a compliment, and just owning that is really makes a lot of people squirmish. And again, if you're not one of these people, that is awesome. But what I want to implore the world is to, in addition to your gratitude journaling, also start taking note of places you can give yourself some credit, places where you can give yourself that pat on the back and notice and acknowledge how far you've come. Now, many of you have probably heard this before, but for anybody who's new, hey, Carlos, good morning. Good to see you. Anybody who's kind of new to my world, you may have not heard me talk about the phrase puddle jumping. So let me describe what I call puddle jumping and why I'm on a mission to squash puddle jumping forever. So puddle jumping is just a cute, simple way to express a phenomenon I see far too often. So when you're about to do something that really matters to you, something that maybe you're doing for the first time, or something big, or maybe you're going bigger and leveling up, or you're about to embark on a new journey, a new project, a new adventure, a new relationship, a new something, and you're ready to go there, it feels so huge, right? Like when you're making the decision and you're making those early commitments to say, am I really going to do this? Am I ready for this? It feels like crossing an ocean, right? Like the metaphor I like to use is it feels like this huge, huge journey between where you are and where you're going. I keep saying journey because Chris said the word journey, right? Like it feels like this massive leap that you've got to make. And so crossing an ocean is fraught with dangers and unknowns. You can't even see the other side, right? Like it's so far away. It feels that big. And in many cases, when you finally cross that ocean, because let's be real, we've crossed a lot of oceans when you're thinking about this, right? Like you've crossed a lot of oceans, you've done a lot of cool things, you've accomplished a lot. We have this tendency to trivialize that ocean, to trivialize that journey, to trivialize that experience because you were able to actually do it. It feels like you look over your shoulder and it's just like hopping over a little puddle. It wasn't an ocean. It was no big deal. It was a big deal once upon a time before we started. But once you got that momentum going, it's very easy and just common to start trivializing and minimizing that experience into no big deal. Right? It was no big deal. It was a small thing. I was able to make that happen. So clearly, if I can do it, anybody can do it. All of that kind of language, I truncate that entire phenomenon into the phrase puddle jumping, because it's like you just jumped over a puddle instead of actually, leaping over an ocean slowly, painstakingly, with all the scars to prove it. And I feel like the best way to get started on recognizing that you've crossed emotions is to give yourself credit. Acknowledge that. Look at that. We spend a lot of time in the coaching industry. All the coaches out there in the world spend a lot of time basically asking you a couple of questions, right? And the big question that we're always asking is, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? It's one of my favorite questions in the English language, right? What are you going to do about it? Well, if you always are asking that question from a place of puddle jumping, you always feel like you're starting from scratch. You always feel like you're at square one. You always feel like you have no confidence to get into this thing, when that's just not true. By giving yourself credit and recognizing the oceans that you've crossed, recognizing how far you've come, you realize you're never at square one. You're square gajillion and one, because of all of the experiences that have shaped you to this moment right now. My wife and CEO is in the chat here. She says, ties back to how hard it is to take credit. We minimize what we accomplish so we don't have to brag about what we did. That's exactly it, Meredith. We are afraid. It goes back to the whole thing about, like, if you're bragging, if you're not humble, if you accept a compliment to it, you must be big of yourself, and all of that, that has seeped into our psyche so hard and like really planted there, that the idea of giving ourselves credit feels just crazy. Exactly. Hence all the puddle jumping. So you are not puddle jumping because there's something wrong with you. It's because society or your parents or all of the above have decided to teach you and train you that puddle jumping is the polite, ladylike, nice thing to do. And I think it's actually costing us so much confidence. It really is, because you don't get confident before you do something. You get confident by crossing all of those oceans. But that only works if you actually recognize what you learned while crossing those oceans. I've beat this metaphor to death. That's what we do as coaches. I hope you're enjoying this. So what I feel there, I have so much to say on this. My entire No Matter What 2-day event is about really addressing this problem. So obviously I'm not going to do that in a quick live stream, but a very great first step that is going to really move the needle on you feeling like, okay, I'm going to break out of my puddle jumping habits. I'm going to actually start to feel the confidence I've already earned, is by learning to give yourself credit. And I think a lot of people give themselves credit for the big things, the things that come with a certificate, if you will, right? The things that come with, like, oh, I'm walking across the stage and shaking some guy's hand who's wearing this weird robe, right? Those kinds of things, or weddings, or seriously, pretty much everything comes with a certificate of some sort, some kind of paper. But all of those other things that don't come with a piece of paper also deserve giving yourself credit for, right? Like all of the things that you have tried, even when everybody around you were like, really? You're gonna give that a go? Are you out of your mind? That's big. That's scary. Those things, regardless of if they were successful or failures or somewhere in between, all of those attempts are moments where you have earned some more confidence because you gave it a go. All of the things that you have accomplished, even those little itty bitty things of, you know what? I published my website. It exists. People can go to the Google machine and find it. It's a real thing. That's an accomplishment. Have you maybe not gotten your first client yet? Okay, that's fine. But like, you have made the steps. You no longer have website shames. You want to send somebody to your beautiful website. That's an accomplishment. Give yourself credit for it. Note that makes a difference. Giving yourself credit also for things you've survived, things you've pushed through. I think that is often an area we miss, right? Like maybe that comes up in your gratitude journal, like, I'm so grateful I had that experience, but also like, I did that. I made it through. That sucked. That was really hard. I felt so alone, or I felt so frustrated, or nobody should ever have to go through that. But I did that. I made it through. I just want to give myself credit. Now, you do not have to add a hashtag humble brag and post it all over the social media for this to be really powerful. It's just about practicing giving yourself credit, noticing at the end of the day as your head hits the pillow at night, here's all the things I did that I feel good about, I feel proud of. Here are the accomplishments, the finish lines I crossed that give me that sense of, you know what, today mattered. Today mattered in the day, in the life of me. That sounded weird, but go with me on this. This is the thing about live streaming, Meredith. I can't fix it when I say something silly, but whatever. My long-winded point is that your gratitude practice is lovely and wonderful, and it does feel really good, especially if you express gratitude to the humans that you're grateful for. But just proclaiming you're grateful that these things are a thing eventually has like some diminishing returns, because you run out of new ideas of things to be grateful for. Most of us are grateful for a handful of things And being grateful for that feels really good and moves us forward. But giving ourselves credit for all of our experiences and everything that we're putting in, all of our efforts, all of our triumphs, all of our failures, all of our experiences, I keep going back to that word, is really the practice that I would love to replace your gratitude journal with, or at least complement it. So that's my challenge for you. I would love for you to think about, how can I give myself credit? How can I accept the compliments people are giving me and really not just feel kind of squirmy about it, like I always do, but actually say, okay, that person's giving me this compliment to point out an area that maybe I haven't given myself credit for. I haven't owned that I did that. I can do that. I offer that. I share that with the world. I hope you like this. I hope this is helping somebody. I hope this reaches somebody. Meg says, hi, Meg. She says, that is hard. It absolutely is hard. We have been taught that that's not what you're supposed to do. But I promise you it's worth the effort. So here's a challenge. I would love for you, for the next week or so, to just at the end of your workday, at the end of your day, whenever you're kind of winding down, give yourself a little bit of credit. Maybe write it down and just note and acknowledge how far you've come. Acknowledge something you want to give yourself credit for in a big way that may come with a certificate, or in a small way that maybe nobody else would notice. But make sure that you notice it and you acknowledge it so that you can get further faster. That is what I wanted to talk to you about. That is what's on my mind today. I'm doing a lot of writing about this right now as I get ready for the next No Matter What. If you don't know, I should share this with you. I just announced this yesterday, the next No Matter What, which is my 2-day coaching experience. It's a virtual coaching retreat, basically. It's happening on Friday, November 4th and Saturday, November 5th. I would love for you to check that out. And if you want to know more about me and learn about No Matter What, go to coachjennie.com. Boom. All right. Thank you so much for tuning into this. Go give yourself some credit. You deserve it. Have a good day.